much for this. So welcome everyone to SVK Network. We're live in the studio with Chef Peter Keith.
Hello.
Hello, Chef.
Thanks for having me here. This is going to be fun.
This is going to be fun. So, and we also have rock star Lisa from the Culinary Federation.
Literally rock star.
Oh,
You're
yes. We're just talking
I always say
earlier
that,
about
I
what a
forget.
rock star I am.
You are a rock star.
I just came from, being a mom, staying at home, working with my hair up in a bun. So I don't feel very rock starish, but I will claim any rock star names, titles you want to give me.
You are a rock star.
Sure.
You're an absolute rock star.
Thanks, Jay.
So anyways, we have Chef Pete. Do you like me Chef Pete?
Yeah, call me Pete.
Chef
Absolutely.
Pete? Do you go Chef Pete? Because I always get in trouble.
Just Pete.
Just Pete? Yeah. So Pete, we're going to talk a little bit about Pete here and his passion for the industry and how he became a chef. Because I was just about to ask him that before we started. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today. And then we're going to talk a little bit about In the Weeds, which you're co-founder of.
Yes.
And what In the Weeds means to our industry. And I think it's going to be, one of the most interesting conversations. And first of all, in person in our studio is huge already. Is having you here because you're right in Edmonton. And we want to talk more about that, In the Weeds, and what it does. Because I think right now, people need to know there's a place to go when it comes to mental illness or the support and resources that are out there. So I think that, so we want to talk about that, but we're going to break for a quick commercial, then we're going to come back with Pete and Rockstar Lisa. And we'll get started there. Is that cool, Pete?
Sounds great.
Okay, cool. Here we go. And you know what? This is the best commercial ever. And right after this, here we go.
Imagine both your front and back of house teams are so well trained that they're executing flawlessly. Your front of house is doubling your sales, boosting repeat business, and creating 5-star dining experiences, while your back of house is consistently preparing each dish to perfection, on time and to spec. Having a restaurant this dialed takes a unique training system. That's where Serve comes in. Serve means Study Restaurant Variety, and it is a powerful, mobile training system, custom-built to meet the needs of your restaurant. Serve will up-level your team's knowledge and skills, maximize your profits, and create experiences guests will rave about. Serve is the key to unlocking your restaurant's hidden potential, and will prove that the more your team is able to learn, the more your restaurant will earn. It's Serve, and it's a game changer. Ready to serve? Get started at servenow.com.
Okay, so I just want to talk about it. Okay, awesome. Well, I just want to formally welcome everyone to our second episode of Season 3. This is the Culinary Federation Chefs in the Fields on the SVK Network. And I'm Lisa Evangelos, the rock star, apparently, is going to be my new title. I'm going to add it to my email signature as soon as I get back to my desk. But also the National Administrator for the Culinary Federation, which is the professional association for chefs, cooks, culinary partners across Canada. And we're so excited to have Peter Keith with us today because I have so many different paths that cross with Peter over the last couple of years. And so to have him here to chat about what he does and his involvement with In the Weeds is really awesome for me personally, just to have a friend in the studio with Jay. But we work together in a number of capacities. So I'll list them quickly and then I'll pass it over to Pete. So I think we started with the Edmonton Chefs, which is the local chapter of the Culinary Federation, the local board. And then we also started working together in the High School Culinary Challenge, which is like a local high school culinary competition that happens in Edmonton and surrounding areas. And Pete is the new chair of that committee this year. And then we also work together. Pete is the national secretary of the Culinary Federation board. And we also work together on In the Weeds because I am the administrator for In the Weeds as well. So we work together all the time, and he's awesome. And he does so many incredible things for culinary in Edmonton and beyond. And so I'm excited to talk more about that with you today, Pete. So to start, why don't you tell us a bit about Muley's and getting started there and how you got involved with the Culinary Federation to begin with. You were telling us a bit about that in the pre-show, so I'd love for you to share that.
Sure. Yeah. So Jay just asked me right before we went on, how old were you when you decided you wanted to be a chef? And I think it was 10 or 11 probably, maybe even earlier. I'm not sure what exactly it was, but I got this idea in my mind and was applying for jobs when I was like 12, 13, right? Trying to apply for dishwasher jobs. I couldn't see over the counter in the restaurant kind of thing. And then finally someone took me when I was 14, just in time for the big Oilers playoff run at Boston Pizza. Making nachos, scrubbing lasagna dishes. That was my start. So I had a great time. But was really, really driven on that path, and went to culinary school, did the competitions, traveled around the world a little bit, and started to realize, okay, I have such a deep passion for food. I love this industry so much, but I don't know if I can work in restaurants forever. I was already feeling the really early signs of burnout at a young age in my mid-20s, and realized that I needed to find something that would allow me to be part of this, be part of the energy, and giving back to the industry that I had been working in for 10 years, but something a little different than just restaurant work, right? Especially line cooking. Like there is a lifespan to the career of a line cook, and you need to change it up. So that's how Muley's was started for me. Really, it was a few people who came together, recognizing an opportunity in the Edmonton food system to create some products, to create charcuterie and sausages at a high level that just wasn't really being done in Alberta. And we actually started with a focus on supplying those restaurants that we used to work in, and being able to give them this, this product that was always imported before, or they would try to make a little bit in-house, but you either didn't have the skill set or the time and space, or the budget to put towards making these things yourself. So they were often coming from Italy or from a larger mass-produced variety somewhere else. So we created Muley's really to give this back to our industry, and then have grown that into a retail brand. So now I really see Muley's as a place where people can come and discover their favorite new local products made by chefs and producers and growers in the Edmonton area.
Wow.
And really being, that kind of next stop after a farmer's market, that we will be the store who takes a chance on you and sells your product for you. So that's what we've created, and it's grown and changed and evolved. But I think the story now is much more about supporting the local food ecosystem, and has grown beyond just specific things that we were making ourselves.
Awesome. Well, that was a great high level summary of all the things that you've done. Yeah, we were talking earlier because we had Chef Poyan saying hi on the Instagram Live, I believe.
Wasn't he there? I can't see you, but good to know you're there.
Yeah, but we were talking about competition too. You kind of glazed over that really briefly, but want to just maybe expand a little bit more on your experience with culinary competition.
Yeah, so I feel like I should say, I think at one of our Culinary Federation meetings, someone used the term t-shirt chefs, right? There's t-shirt chefs and then there's white coat chefs. And I'm both, but I bounce back and forth depending on what I'm doing. And I mean that in the t-shirt chefs are sort of this new generation that maybe they don't go to culinary school. Maybe it's more self-taught, right? You're apprenticing in these top restaurants, and you're doing a different path. And a little more the traditional was the white coat chef, the sort of status that came with that, and the career trajectory that we think of for a more traditional chef role. And that's where a lot of the competition stuff lives. And I did a lot of that as an apprentice. So I was really involved in Skills Canada from high school all the way to my early 20s. Now I'm actually really fortunate to be on the board of Skills Alberta and get back to that. But Skills, there's the things through the World Chefs. So WACS, World Association of Chefs Societies.
That's right, you got it.
So WACS runs competitions around the world, and a lot of chefs who have gone more the traditional route and got their red seal, maybe got their CCC, they're quite involved in that. And I think competitions have a really important place in training and development of culinary talent, but also just that camaraderie and networking and bringing people together from around the world over a celebration of excellence, right? That's what it really is. So my attitude, if I have apprentices or young people working with us who are exploring the idea of competition, I will always encourage them to do it not just from a place of wanting to win, but from a place of wanting to grow, go through the experience, push yourself, and meet people. And that just opens so many career doors. So I'm a big fan of that. And I think Culinary Federation does a great job of making those things available in the industry.
Yeah, and we're having a couple chef takeovers on the Culinary Federation Instagram this past week, and Chef Tina Tang was just doing some of the coverage of Culinary Team Canada as they head to Luxembourg to compete as well. So competition is in the air right now, and we're also just in the midst of getting ready for the Culinary Challenge, which happens in February.
Really? So what's that all about?
Yeah, well, briefly we could talk about that. Sure. The High School Culinary Challenge is an annual culinary competition, and for the last 2 years it's had to be online because of COVID. But typically about 18 to 20 teams from high schools in Edmonton and the surrounding area come together and create a set menu of an appetizer, a main, and a dessert in front of judges in Nate's Kitchens. And then we have a gala dinner where they come and we award gold, silver, and bronze and scholarships to Nate's Culinary Arts program.
So I did this in 2008 and 2009, grade 11, grade 12. And I think this is one of the most impactful initiatives that our culinary community in Alberta has put forward in my lifetime. What this does for young students and what it's done to the level of talent that young people are bringing into their first jobs is incredible. So we've just seen this growth and just kind of blossoming of the culinary talent from people who are going into high school at the age of 15 or so, like already know about this and want to do this at that age. So that's the next generation of cooks that we're all hiring to work in our kitchen. So it's really incredible to see what's happening.
Can I start to this?
Please, take it away.
First of all, just having someone in your caliber in a studio is so cool. But I want to go back to when you were young and you decided to become a chef, to join this. I always call it like the most incredible industry, and as I've been in the industry almost 33 years now, 25. It's just but you guys, I would say this, and this is kudos to Culinary Federation and Ryan, Lisa, I'm really open my eyes, Vincent, and open my eyes. But I saw this really when we were at the conference in June this year, and really what the Culinary Federation and that competition side really is amazing to watch these talented chefs create these amazing dishes with the love and the desire to create something unique and different and perfect. Was so incredible to watch. And I come from the art world, and I remember someone saying something. I said, this is kind of like when you create a painting. You go to a gallery and you have an opening or showing that day. I related it very similar to, in my eyes, I'm wrong, but in my eyes, that's what I saw. To see young chefs, and I think Chef Dave and Mr. Franklin are sharing me what the whole process is and how they got to that moment and how serious it was. And what like I want to hear from you, Chef, is just really what kept you going? Because I'm sure there was times in your career that you're like, is this the right place, or was it always like that? Or did you have passion throughout your career to be where you are today?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think it comes up a lot.
It's a long-winded point to get to that point.
I think I
followed. You got there.
Did you get there? Sorry.
No, great question, because there's this idea or assumption that chefs are really, really passionate about food or ingredients or the process of cooking. And I think that's like one pillar for people, right? And you can typically look at a chef or their restaurant and say, okay, yeah, they're in that pillar. Like they are very ingredient driven. They're out there foraging. They're importing the coolest ingredients to learn how to cook with them. They're studying all the books and all the techniques all the time to be the master of that craft. And I think for me, as a 14-year-old, you start out assuming that's what you have to be, but then you might find a different stream. And so the pillar that I've really gone towards is hospitality. And I do this because I want to be able to provide an amazing experience for people. And as I shift it from being...
Can I just jump on that really quick?
Yeah.
So you're going to get interrupted by me.
No, I love it.
I want to say this because you did this before there was... Because I think something... And I want people to understand this because I was thinking the same way. You were doing this before the whole celebrity chef existed, right?
It was just started.
Yeah, but it wasn't on your radar.
No, it wasn't on my radar. In fact, it was really cool. A couple of weeks ago, to be presenting at Christmas in November alongside Susan Lee, Ridge, and Michael and Anna Olsen. And I still remember when we got Food Network for the first time, and I turned it on. Anna Olsen was on TV, and so now to be there alongside people like that is incredible. But the celebrity chef culture and sort of holding the leaders of our industry in that esteem across society, that happened right as I was apprenticing and getting more cooking. So
you weren't drawn into it because you could be a celebrity.
No, that's not what inspired you.
No, definitely not.
And I don't think I think a lot of the public may think that, but I don't think that most chefs, let me say most, maybe usually are one, but those chefs that I know are not. That's not their job.
No, I agree, because I think like any sort of talent that people have, most people are pretty aware and comfortable with the idea that okay, that's up there, and that's the very few, and you need a lot of luck, and that just might not be in the cards for me. So for me, it was something that I learned at a young enough age that I felt like I was good at it. We had a labor crisis in Alberta in around 2005, 2006, where the oil field boom and all these things were just sucking up so much talent, and we needed more people. So I was 14 years old, and at times felt like I was running a kitchen. Just because I started early enough and I cared enough. That's a huge part in this industry, right? You just have to care enough. So as I got better at it, I started being drawn more towards the idea of hospitality, and that as I put on an entrepreneur hat and went and did an MBA and sat in more business.
Whoa, wait a minute. You have an MBA too?
Just recently too.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I finished in 2020. The month that the whole world went online, my last few courses, it was okay, we're going to do this presentation over Zoom. In fact, I was able to do multiple projects in university on the COVID pivot for my business. So it was a really convenient way to wrap it up. But yeah, as you sit in these circles, you start to hear more the idea of building things for people. Right? Yeah. And to me, that's what the industry represents. It's creating and entertaining and providing sustenance and nourishment for that community in a way that also lets you be creative and lets you work with these amazing ingredients. But for me, it's more on the people side than it is on the act of cooking. And I think that inherently limits the skill that I will develop as a cook. I'm an okay cook. I'm not going to be winning international awards anymore for my food, but my hope is that I can building bridges in the community and providing that hospitality and building and creating. And that's what I really love about food.
First of all, I think that is so important in today, and especially what you created within the weeds, right? Is that I think that passion comes through that of helping people. And I think a lot of chefs that I'm running into, I think are learning from people like you. And learning from other chefs that are helping people in the industry. From Guy Fieri, I've never reached out to Guy before during the pandemic. I didn't hear my email. But anyways, I did reach out to him in the sense of really seeing if he could be the voice and help us up here, because at that time, we didn't know really what was going to happen to our industry. He was doing great stuff in the States for us down there. So I get so excited when I hear chefs are doing stuff like you're doing in the movies. And other organizations that I work with, and even the one that I started with the Snapchat project, where we redo staff rooms to become wellness rooms. Might need your help.
I'm excited about that.
Might need your help on that, Pete. Might need to do that. So I think we can. But Lisa, do you want to break to a quick commercial?
That's what I was going to say. This is a great transition.
Do you like that transition?
I think this is a perfect transition to a little break, and we'll come back and we'll talk more directly about In the Weeds, Peter's involvement, and where In the Weeds is going. How about that?
That's why you're here.
That's why I'm here.
That's why you're here. All right, we'll be right back in a second. back on the SUK network. Just go hit this button too. So, Lisa, what are we going to talk about the second half? I'm gonna
let me guide you, Jay. Let me guide you.
I'm not gonna ramble.
We wanted to talk all about Pete and learn more about him in the first segment. Second segment, we're talking about In the Weeds. So I'm just gonna pass it right over to you, Pete. Why don't you just, for people who don't know, who've never heard of In the Weeds, why don't you let us know?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I'm not a person who's big on like stats and that side of things. I'm big on stories, and I think what we have all been feeling and hearing and starting to understand is that our industry is really struggling to provide a home for the long term, right? You hear about the Great Resignation, you hear about difficulty in recruiting, and I don't want to just be negative, but like we know this is the reality. And to me, one of the big causes of that is we're not an industry that's been good at taking care of people's health and especially their mental health. So I usually will say mental health and wellness together is a big thing that we need to address, and that's why In the Weeds was created. So I think I'm sort of a co-founder. I'm one of the founding board members, but really this idea started with Chef Paul Streetbelt in our community, who's someone that I've worked very closely with, who's known quite well as well. Paul recognized the need for an organization and a group of people that could just start something, not really knowing where that would end up. So it's been a few years and we've tried some different projects, and I think now that the world is opening up and we can do events and things like that again, you will see In the Weeds hosting events related to advocacy, education, right? Training the managers and leaders in our communities how to help their people in need. But right now, the big thing that we're doing that I think is so important is we're just providing resources for people to access therapy and counseling, right? So if you are in the Edmonton area, you work in the industry, and you want to go see a counselor, you can get basically a voucher for 3 sessions through our website. We've been able to do that.
So what do you mean a voucher?
Like basically, you can go into our website. You'll actually connect with Lisa. Yep. It's all anonymous, right? Protecting people's privacy, of course. And you can be connected with a registered therapist and have free sessions.
What? Yeah. And actually, if you go to our website in the WeCA, that's where you can see biographies, information about our partner psychologists, so that you can see somebody maybe that will fit with you best, and then you reach out to them directly and you say, I'm contacting you because of the In the Weeds counseling program, and then you will get free sessions with that psychologist.
Seriously.
And you can do it in person or you can do it online, whatever works best for you. This is something that we started because we did a bunch of fundraising for programming from In the Weeds, and then COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And then we couldn't do what we had planned to do with that money that we had fundraised, and so we're pouring it back into the community in the form of counseling.
Yeah, and it's such a crucial time for these resources to exist, and we just want to get the word out that people can access help, and that the cost for the first few sessions does not need to be a barrier, right? Because there are many barriers for people seeking help for their mental health, and cost is a huge one. But also there's sort of our own ego or feelings of shame or even feelings of guilt. Like I think people struggle with feeling like, well, do I need this as much as someone else needs this help? Maybe I'm not dealing with that as much. And my answer to that would be there's no shame in getting help every time.
So Chef, I just want to touch on this. Sorry to interrupt you. Okay, now we're getting into it. I just love this talk about this stuff because I think it's so important to talk about it. What is so mental health? I want to talk about it because if I'm a chef in the kitchen with my hat, I can call in sick, right? For whatever the reason is. I'm sure there's a lot of good reasons of getting hurt physically. We talk mentally. What is some of the things that would cause a person to say, I need a break? When you think about mental from a chef's perspective.
Sure. Yeah, I always try to preface these types of conversations by saying I am not a mental health professional, so I'll share my opinions.
Just right?
As long as people listening know that. I think it's actually interesting because we're physical, hands-on workplaces that are sometimes legally mandated to identify physical hazards. Right? And put safety procedures in place. Yeah. So you spill the oil, pour some salt, go clean it up right away, tell everyone that it's spilled, put a sign on it. We have never been able to do that with the mental health and mental wellness side of our work, despite it being such a stressful environment. So I think you can start off right away with the long hours, right? The lack of regular weekends, or sometimes even your weekends being different than the weekends of your loved ones. So can you really relax and unwind and reconnect with your support system on your days off? Because your days off might be Monday and Thursday this week, and then you're working the other days, or maybe you don't get 2 days off. So there's the time in the workplace, that's a huge factor. The length of these shifts, I think the pace of work leads to an incredible amount of stress. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who would wake up hearing the chip printer in the middle of the night, right? Or be lying in bed thinking, okay, like I need to go in an hour early unpaid tomorrow just so that I know I'm on top of it, right? So that I know all the prep is done. Because otherwise, service can be a nightmare. You're laying in bed thinking, hey, I'm out of these items on my prep station, and that's not coming in tomorrow because I missed the order deadline, and I gotta tell chef this, and I'm gonna get in trouble for that. And the stress is just piling on for people, and that's what it has always taken to do the work that we do.
Do you think in the past, though, chef, that it was the kitchen I've worked in, the kitchens too, is that it was allowed though, that acceptance of working them to death. But
almost glorified,
right? But then almost, you're right, because it was like we watched shows and it was okay to scream at people and all these things. It just added to, first of all, shame on them for thinking about that, because that is not what we mean in kitchens, is people screaming at each other to get something done. We don't need that, right? Because you touch on the additional stress that comes at that point.
Yeah.
And sometimes there are owners too that are cooking. And you just have the ownership on top of that stress, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's no questioning that this is an industry in which it's difficult to make money, right? Profit margins are very low.
It's
incredibly time sensitive. You have minutes of a window to ideally be getting food out to your paying customers, keeping them happy. And we have always put the guest experience as the top priority, at the expense of sometimes our profits, at the expense of the wellness of the people working in our kitchens. And, I would argue at the expense of the entire business model right now, we actually need to reshape and rethink. So when you focus on the people, it has been allowed, it has been glorified, and sometimes it has actually been a point of pride for people who've gone through it to say, I paid my dues, I survived, now I'm an executive chef or an owner, and you know what, it's good for them to have a tough environment. It builds character, it builds a great cook. And I understand the sort of romanticized feeling behind that, of going through something as a team, toughing up, proving that you're tough. That should never come at the expense of people's wellness. And it has and will continue to push people to the point of devastating consequences if we don't change.
I think we've seen recently on some social media, I think on LinkedIn, just of some of these chefs sitting down and another chef putting their hand on their shoulder and just showing the reality of what these people are going through. Let alone it's already hard, because the younger chef generation is dealing with probably other things that are really, it's a hard world to live in than it was 30 years ago when I started in school than it is today. And then you always have that stuff at home that you're doing, right? And I tell you that the people that I've met over the years usually live in a great home life either, of who the chef has been in as well, right? So you think all those mixed ingredients, I hate to use that word, but sort of
it's appropriate.
But all the different ingredients really puts up to a very brittle or very combustion.
You're saying it's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, when you think about it, though.
Nicely done.
Right? Yeah. Like you think about all those things. So I think when there's an opportunity for resources to have free counseling, sessions, and those kind of things that people are looking up, I think the biggest thing that I love is that you create an environment. And my buddy Matt Rowe has always said that you may not see the direct impact of them maybe going to your website, using the services, but you create the other things out there that may not be, like you create the, what's the word? Awareness, but people will create activities, doing stuff. Yeah. Maybe it's someone listening to this or watching the show later or listening to what you did, but they may not use a resource and stuff like this, but they go and do something for their business.
And that's a huge thing. Like we would consider that a huge commitment. And I love the work Matt is doing, and I think it's at the core, it's about culture change. right?
Yeah.
So if we can normalize the conversations about mental health, whether that be from a, hey, I'm struggling with this side, or here are solutions and here are ways to help. Just talking about the whole spectrum of things will help, right?
Yeah, just creating space for conversation is actually what I am personally the most proud of in the Weeds for doing, because a couple years ago at one of our Culinary Federation conferences, Peter hosted a panel where we just had chefs from all different walks up talking about their personal experience, and just people even, you know, like putting their hand up, identifying with various things in the workplace. It's broken down walls and barriers where people couldn't talk about it before because it wasn't normalized. And so even just that, you know, that's such a huge thing. Amazing, yes, that we offer counseling, but just the opportunity to create opportunity for conversation in the hospitality world that kept hush-hush about it before is something that I think is just so valuable.
It is, and it was hush-hush before, right?
It really was.
Yeah, it was you never brought up, or you know, tough it out. Or...
In the same way that, you know, discrimination and harassment were very just like they happened, but you didn't acknowledge it, no one talked about it, no one complained, because then if you cross that line to try to fix it, then you're challenging the culture that we all bought into, right? So now the culture is being challenged across the board, and my hope is that people just feel more comfortable finding solutions and bringing up these issues and working through them together as a team.
So I have a question for you, as we kind of wrap this up a little bit more, but we can talk about the answer about this. We haven't even got into the culinary food, but we'll leave that for a different day. But I do want to ask you, what is your perfect world look like in our industry when it comes to this space? What's that look like for you? Never had that question before?
To keep it brief. No, I mean, I've never had it phrased like that, so I love it. And we should be asking this question.
Yeah. Well, it gives us an end game. Go for it.
I would like to see everyone who works in the food world, whether that's, you know, the most basic labor being done on farms, to the executive chefs at the highest caliber restaurants in the world, and everyone in between. The dishwashers, especially, as someone who did it for 6 months.
I think we all did it. At least
I still do it.
I would like to see every person who's part of that system be afforded the respect that they deserve. First of all, because we should all deserve respect in our workplaces as humans, but especially for the importance that this system plays in our society, we should be given that respect and everything that comes with it, which has to include a healthy workplace where people have balance in their life. People are earning the type of income that allows them to live a good life outside of work, and people are encouraged to have, you know, a wonderful dynamic life outside of work, which also includes things like being able to take your birthday off once in a while, or, you know, not like I worked with someone who missed his own daughter's graduation because he worked at the facility that the graduation was held at. So he worked, and then he went and sat with his family after. And to me, just the idea that that's how we have to work, that idea has to change to be a respected profession, and a profession that can really give back to people's lives instead of just doing it from them. So if I had to summarize it in a big way, that would be it. And there's so many small things that will change to get towards that. But I also think that's the only way we can solve a staffing crisis, right? We can look at recruitment tactics, retention tactics, salaries, all those kinds of things. But at the core, does our society have a deep respect for the people who serve? That's what has to happen.
And I think that's huge. I think you nailed it. And I love that. I always like looking at what's our goal? Like, where are we going to go? Or what's the future look like for this space? Because I love these talks, and I think the more that we talk, but we also have to look at what the possibilities are. Where can we go to the end? So we do have an environment where people all ages. Right? I always said that. I forget what I was going to talk about this. We should have it where any age is not scared to work in the kitchen. And there was times when I was in the kitchen, I was terrified when I started, and just being able to allow anyone, any age, with respect, but any ethnic background, any diversity, or anything like that, gender,
this has not been a friendly welcoming place.
No, it hasn't. It hasn't, right? and we need to make it. And I think people like yourself, Chef and Ben, just hats off for everything you're doing, first of all, is that you are doing this. You are paving the road. So it's not easy, but you're doing the right thing, and we're all going to look at that in 2 to 3 years, or hopefully sooner than later, 10-year plan. But you started something that really changed and disrupted the industry that needed to be changed. Yeah, so thank you so much, right?
Yeah.
I kept that one a little shorter?
You just concluded that so beautifully, Jay. Well done. It was a pleasure chatting with you guys about this today.
And just hats off to the Culinary Federation on allowing us to connect with people like this too.
Yeah.
And Ryan and everyone over there too. And just thank you so much for that. You guys are bringing a new light to the industry, and I think this is what I have seen the Culinary Federation change so much over the years that we've been partners with you guys. And Ryan, your leadership and everything else that you're doing here to do these things, to bring this as a conversational, is huge, dude. So hats off to you guys over there, Lisa. And
thanks
Jeff,
for hosting us.
Absolutely, yeah, absolute pleasure.
Thanks for sharing the platform. That's really the key thing. So yeah, we're grateful.
Well, you're welcome back anytime. The studio's over here, and we're going to do some more stuff with them. So thank you so much, and everyone else. We are back tomorrow. I don't know what show tomorrow is, to be honest, when you do so many shows every week.
So watch for socials, and you'll post it there.
Exactly. We're back tomorrow. Actually, no, tomorrow's side hustles. We're doing restaurant side hustles, right? Every restaurateur needs a side hustle, so we're doing side hustle show tomorrow. That's what we're doing. So it's actually called Restaurant Side Hustle.
There you go.
So, yeah. So
we know.
We're back. Only just everyone know on SVK, we are daily by 2 p.m. Eastern Time, Monday to Friday, and we try to bring you the most content we can about our industry. So thanks again, Chef and Lisa, and to everyone else. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll roll that out. So here we go. More furniture to restaurants.
Good idea. He is really big on CSR.